You're listening to the Lanterns Radio Network. We are the network dedicated to empowering the individual, illuminating the truth, defending American exceptionalism, and inspiring future generations. Stay connected and get involved at Lanterns.buzz for great radio. Get commentary and news of the day. Lanterns.buzz.
Common sense, comedy, and freedom. You found the defenders of American exceptionalism on the Lanterns Radio Network.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day. We do that again.
Every
freaking Wednesday.
Maybe that's our thing.
I don't know.
Maybe that's our thing.
That is not our thing. We're not doing that.
Why not?
We're not doing it.
Why not?
No.
I like it.
We're just not doing it.
Hey, come on, Steven. What day is it? Tell me what day is it? What day is today?
No.
Come on, what day is it?
Do it.
What day is it?
Do it.
Come on, what day is it?
Not gonna do it.
What day is it?
No.
What day is it?
It's Hump Day.
That's something. Hump Day.
All right, you happy?
Yeah, that's good times. That's how we do this. We have a great show planned this evening. By the way, we are live on Facebook at DOA Show.
Yes, Defenders of American Exceptionalism.
Well, they know who it is.
I know.
Okay.
I know they know. Do you know that they know that I know? That you know what they are and what it is?
I know that.
I didn't
you
think
know
so.
that I know that you know that I know.
Didn't think so.
Well, that's the problem. No.
That's right. That's right.
Anywho, we got a good show planned this evening. We are going to be talking a myriad of different things, actually.
Yep.
We've got the YouTube shooter.
Spit it out.
I know. I was trying to. We're going to talk YouTube shooter. We're going to talk about apparently there's, and this is what makes me giggle, is apparently there's an epidemic sweeping the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit.
I like how they call it an
epidemic.
An epidemic. Mm-hmm. But it's not viral or
anything. It's not a virus.
Yeah, it's not a virus. It's not bacteria. It's not a sickness.
Are
no,
you down
necessarily.
With the sickness, though?
Yeah.
Are you down with the sickness?
Are you down with the sickness?
You got to get up. But are you down with the sickness?
Stop it.
No?
Not tonight.
Nothing?
No.
No. Come on. All right.
Because see, now you're going to make my head start bobbling.
Anyway. So we have some wonderful things coming up.
We do.
We also potentially have a guest.
Yeah, we do. We have to.
I say potentially because we have to call him in a second here.
Yeah, we're trying to work on that. It's there's a possibility that we will be having Riaz Patel in on the second segment. When I say potentially, it was we were cutting it close with the meetings that he has, and yeah, he's trying to get out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully that'll work out, but we'll see.
We'll see how that works.
We'll see. And if not, we'll fill it in with all the other wonderful things that are
in store.
Yeah, that are due to come in. And then we'll end it out with apparently we are sending troops to the border.
Yes.
National Guard.
Because, the Army National Guard. You can.
A week in a month and 2 weeks a year.
Yep.
Which I have to admit, it wasn't until my older years I couldn't figure out what the hell that meant. It's like, how do you do 1 week in a month and 2 weeks a year? Are you doing weekends or are you doing the weekday? I don't get it. I was homeschooled. You have to forgive me.
Homeschooled, so I mean, we can't blame you for much.
So you can't.
It's all right.
Bless my heart.
It's okay.
Bless my heart.
It's okay. Anyway,
so we're gonna kick this off.
Let's start here.
Let's start here, indeed.
I want to start with. Let's go over some facts. Okay.
Also, we're gonna talk
the YouTubes.
The
YouTube shootings.
So the fun part about this, if there can be a fun part, to this.
Yeah. I don't know why that happened. I'm sorry. Wow, that was bad. Anyway.
It's not like you do this every week.
I don't even know why it happened. It doesn't normally happen like that. Anyway.
But yeah, so we have the YouTube.
Yes, we have the YouTubes. We have a lot of things going on.
The funny part about it, and I heard it today, and it's actually a good thing. The problem with the whole YouTube shooting is it doesn't fit anybody's narrative on either side of the argument at all.
No, it doesn't. I mean, if you want to go down the list, let's see. Female, almost 40, from Iran originally. She has 4 YouTube channels.
Yep, she is a vegan.
She is vegan. She has a YouTube channel in Farsi, 1 in Turkish, and 2 in English. Not only is she a vegan, but she is also a PETA member and very outspoken in the PETA membership thing.
Yeah,
she is the liberal feminist.
Yeah, she's done some done some stuff. Boy,
I guess we could say was.
God rest her soul.
Hopefully.
But yeah, no, it doesn't fit anything that would be a normal shooting. It's not a terrorist act. It's not a it's not some right wing hooded Klan guy trying to. It's nothing. It's none of that. None of that stuff.
It actually was. She is a crazy freaking loon.
Bat nuts crazy.
She's a crazy loon.
Literally.
And what I mean by that is she had issues, guys.
Just a tad.
She had issues. The reason why I say she has issues, she's been going on for the past 2 months about how she's being demonetized by YouTube and how it's killing her life because that was her only source of income, and she's 40.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you're 40 years old and your only source of income is YouTube, hold on, and you're worried that if it goes away that you have nothing?
And her parents are pretty much on point enough to where they could tell that she was out of town for long enough to where they counted her as missing?
Yeah, that's
when it was only like a day.
Yeah.
There's something wrong.
There's a lot of it that's...
and don't forget that her brother and father both said to people, hey, if you find her, she has this issue and she is really
she doesn't like
YouTube. She is going to do something bad.
Which I've heard this mentioned today as well. I don't understand, and maybe it's because it's California.
Maybe.
But I
so.
don't understand why it is that they, this is YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you just walk into YouTube?
Just walk into it, apparently.
You know what I mean, though?
So,
how do you just walk into it with a gun and start shooting people?
Funny fact, I know somebody that works at Google, which is right next door to that YouTube facility.
Uh-huh.
I know that they work there because they marked themselves as safe during the
incident. Thank God. I hate that, by the way. That is the most irritating thing I've ever seen.
Mark yourself as safe during an incident.
Mark yourself as safe. Shut up. Shut up.
We see at Facebook that there is a violent crime acting in your area. I wonder how they know.
Well, I was going to say, how do you... If you look at it, have you noticed that everybody that marks themselves as safe are people that you really don't care?
That they mark themselves as like, I didn't even know you were in...
You're like,
I didn't even know you were in California.
I forgot you lived in Florida. I didn't know hurricanes. No. What? I forgot.
You used to work at Red Hat. Now you work at Google? What? When did that happen?
Exactly. And you're like, I haven't spoken to you in 10 years, and you still owe me money. And you... What? Dude, what?
My bad.
But the people you do want to know from that you never hear, it never goes on. It's just...
Right.
Oh, that's you. Sorry. The dinging... There we go. Okay.
It's all right.
Anyway, sorry. We're
ding press are done.
This is the joy of live, folks, is y'all get to see everything.
Even us screwing up, which happens a lot, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
So, yeah. But anyway, I mean, it just fascinates me that you could walk into Google like that and it not be an issue. That
YouTube, you mean?
Well, YouTube. What did I say? Google?
Yeah.
Because you said Google.
Technically, they're the same.
You messed with me. It's what it is.
I messed with you.
You did. Mm-hmm. It's your fault.
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry. We're reaching out here. You typed that. Yeah, but...
Yeah.
Anyway. She did, though. She had a whole laundry list of issues. She was found sleeping in her car at one point. And the cops kind of knocked on the door like, hey, are you okay? Are you all right? And she was just laying there sleeping, and they, didn't determine her to be a threat, and so they let her go.
Right.
But one of the big thing, and everybody's been talking about this, obviously, mainly because it doesn't fit a narrative. So how do you say anything? How do you do anything? Mm-hmm. She was just nuts. Just nuts. And we quit making that a priority. Have you noticed that? No, not even a priority, but we quit being I quit being an option. Let's put it that way, because we've been so worried about feelings. Mm-hmm. It's we can't turn around and think that something's wrong with them. Right. It's like, okay. Sidebar on this whole thing. Do you remember? And I sent you the article for this. There was a grandfather. There was a shooting in Oklahoma, burglary that happened. 4 guys. I think it was 4 kids went in, tried to rob this place. Anyway, at least one of them got shot and killed. Well, the grandfather, the one that got shot and killed, obviously an AR-15 was being used, and what had set it apart. The grandpa sat there and said that the guy inside the house defending his home and his property had an unfair advantage because he had an AR-15, and it was only because it was an AR-15.
Really?
Yes.
Huh.
And I'm trying to figure out how is it to be, you can't turn around and actually make it out to be it's the kid's fault for going and robbing this place or attempting to rob this place.
Gotcha.
But we can't have that. No. It's the homeowner's fault for having a certain weapon to defend his property and stuff. Which I made a comment. I was like, well, what's the difference between him being shot or shooting at and defending his property with an AR-15 and with that very same guy defending his property with, say, a 12 gauge?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sorry, but I don't know if you've ever seen what a 12 gauge does, especially down a narrow hallway.
Do you want a closed casket or do you want an open casket?
Pretty much, yeah. That's literally the deciding factor. If the AR-15 allows you to have an open casket funeral, the shotgun does not. That pretty much warrants a closed casket cremation funeral.
Yep.
It's not pretty, and I don't understand why it is that people are so hung up on this. And I love people to death, but if it's just it's AR-15, it's the AR-15. It's all we use. It's the only stuff we say all the time, every time. It's just because it's the only thing people know, and for some reason they don't want to do 12 gauges.
That's weird.
That is weird, very weird.
They don't want to use 12 gauges.
Unless you're Joe Biden, and you take your shotgun and you go shoot in the air.
You know what else is weird?
What's that?
The UK.
UK, yeah. Oh my God. So I've been rattling on. I completely forgot about the UK.
The UK, man.
Yeah. So the UK has an epidemic.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what it's called. Or at least they're referencing it as such. Anyway, I wouldn't call it an epidemic so much because, again, epidemic would imply something viral. Ish. Medical, like I mean, it is killing people.
Yes.
But I wouldn't quite put it under the banner of an epidemic. But from the Daily Wire, apparently, London is not exactly in a good place right now.
No, it's not.
The headline reads that knife attacks propel London to outpace New York City's murder rate for the first time in modern history.
In modern history?
Modern history.
So what you're saying is the murder rate in London is higher than New York?
Mm-hmm. And you're allowed to have a gun in New York?
Sort of. Not
sort
really.
of.
No.
Well,
cops can.
Well, and wealthy people can.
And really wealthy people with a lot of
money. But London, you cannot.
At all. They don't have guns there.
They don't have guns there.
Even the cops have billy clubs.
They do. Guns. Yeah, they do.
But they will beat the mess out of you.
Both cities have roughly the same population in the month of February.
Yes.
15 people were murdered in London, whereas New York recorded only 14.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Weird. Weird.
Crazy.
London is set to outpace the murder rate for New York in March as well. By late last night, there was 22 killings in the capital, according to the Metropolitan Police, against the 21 in the U.S. city.
Oh my!
Said the Times.
The Times.
The Times.
The Times.
The Times.
Look at that. They're not, but I mean, the Times, they wouldn't be, biased against New York or.
No, actually,
it's not. It's a survey. It's real.
It is real. It's legit.
It's not biased or anything like that. This is legitimate.
Yeah.
And all of the violent crimes are done by stabbing and knives.
Oh, just the start of it. Since 2014, excluding victims of terrorism, the number of London murders has risen by a stunning 38%.
You mean excluding that British military vet that got his head chopped off in the middle of London?
No, that one counted.
No, that was a terrorist attack.
Did they count that as terrorist?
I think that was counted as a terrorist attack. He got his head chopped off.
Yeah, I remember that though.
Yeah, that was good times.
That was good. Good times.
Of course, everybody loved that.
London has also seen. Here's the epidemic of acid attacks in a year.
Yes,
over the years. Now, I'm going to go back to this. I don't recall acid attacks being an epidemic. Again, I could be wrong with my understanding of the word epidemic, but I always associated that with with sickness. And I mean, there is a sickness. If you're going to splash somebody with acid intentionally, there's probably a little bit of mental sickness there.
I mean, you got to get up. Come on, you down with the sickness?
I quit. I'm done. No,
All right.
I can't. No. Not tonight. Not tonight.
But tonight's the night.
I'm going to stab you in the knee with a pen. Good Lord.
See, this is what leads to violence.
It is what happens. See, you don't need a gun. I'm going to...
Yes, Bradley, it is still less than Chicago.
For the moment. For the moment.
All right.
They're exactly the same, so that's not going to change anything. But anyway, we're going to be back, hopefully, and on the other side, we will have with us Riaz Patel. Do not go anywhere. You're listening to Defenders of American Exceptionalism on the Lanterns Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Hello? Hello? No, we're inside.
Hi. And welcome back, folks. You're listening to Defenders of American Exceptionalism on the Lanterns Radio Network. After much effort and planning, it has been so hard. You have no idea. Schedules have not been lining up,
Forever.
and the stars have not been aligning. But finally, the man, the myth, the legend, Riaz Patel is joining us tonight. Riaz, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really appreciate it.
With that intro, I had a weird feeling you were going to introduce someone else. And I was like, oh. And I was like, just be quiet until whoever this person, who's a man and a myth that speaks, just listen to whatever he has to say. But apparently it's me.
Apparently
It is
it's
you.
you. I mean, well, you kind of have been a little bit of a myth in the area of what we're doing. I mean, a person that comes from your background with what you've done and comes across the proverbial aisle and starts trying to make conversations with people.
The rift between the trenches in World War I was more friendly, if
That's
you're going to call
exactly.
it an aisle.
Exactly.
I mean, no one has ever been so polite about it, calling an aisle when families and friendships are literally falling into it.
I mean, this is a family show, so...
Yeah, true.
Exactly. But again, we really appreciate, like I said, we have been trying to get Riaz on for a long time, several months, ish. And we finally, the stars have aligned, and he has had time to join us. And so, without further ado, Mr. Riaz, one of the things welcome. What we were going to do is talk about, as we mentioned earlier, we kind of went over the YouTube shooting that had happened, and also the facts of the crime rate, the murder rate that's going up in London.
Have you heard about those yet?
Yeah, actually, I was reading about that this morning.
There you go.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's an amazing thing. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of bring you on. One of the things that you and I have always talked about doing was trying to, as you do as well, is trying to like you said, reach across that rift and talk with people in ways that you don't normally talk about things. So, what are people on like when it comes to the YouTube shooter?
Oh, wait. Before we do that, we have a request.
Oh, we have a request.
Already?
Yes. The request is, Riaz, can you please give us your background?
My background. So I am identity-wise, I'm a Muslim. I'm from Pakistan. I'm an immigrant. I'm a gay parent. I've got 2 kids by surrogacy. I'm left-handed. I'm as many minorities as you could possibly roll up into one. And
I'm left-handed too.
I didn't know you were left-handed. I may have to
see. We can always find something to connect on. And I produce television in Hollywood, and I always produced what I really believe was transformative, positive programming. That I would do something that by the end of the program, someone would have changed for the better. They either would have, dealt with issues in their family, their body, themselves, whatever. And then the world broke, as you know, a few years ago, and I thought, what if this transformative work is needed in the real world? And so I pivoted away from the cameras and ended up connecting to Glenn Beck. And we had a really beautiful conversation that has developed. I actually was with him all last week into not only a great friendship, dear friendship, where we don't really talk about work most of the time, and a collaboration to say, okay, how can we find a way to tell stories, not for the 15% freak angry ones on the left, not for the 15% freak angry ones on the right, but the ones in the middle. And so who I am so now is sort of going from what my background is to the other side of the aisle, as we put it so lovingly, and really sitting down and saying, what are the myths you guys have about us? What are the myths we have about you? It is shocking. It is shocking how much is lost in translation. Oh, yeah. It is shocking how much is lost just because of tribal identity, that if you are X, then you must be all these other things. And so as this gun, thing happens, and gun debate, gun conversation, whatever you want to call it, it's the one thing that I feel like we kind of as adults have to get over ourselves and say, I shouldn't really care how you feel about taxation or the role of government or whatever. Our children are being shot, and they're not separating the kids, saying, hey, would the liberal kids stand over here and the one... They're not. And so we have to, whatever our differences are, whatever you feel about me, whatever I feel about gun people, whatever I feel about the NRA, whatever I feel about whatever we disagree on, we have to, at some point, when an issue is this important, get over ourselves and figure out a way to connect and to talk. And so the work is more important than ever because the solutions are not going to come in the black and white. It's not going to come from abolishing the Second Amendment or the reverse, which is giving every child a gun to protect themselves. It's going to be in the gray. And so gray will only know when we have conversations. And so that's really what these kinds of conversations are about, and trying to get people back to the dinner table, back to the lunchroom, back to the PTA meeting with those neighbors that they kind of might have disagreements with, and talk.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's the best way to describe it is you're trying to resolve a conflict. You're not trying to win an argument. And unfortunately, we're in a place in our world where all people want to do is win. We just want to win for their side, their team. Tribalism is I mean, I never had realized or known about it until, recently. But if you look at it, I mean, it is amazing how if you're not on my team and exactly on my team, then
on every single point,
then exactly, then I'm going to have to shun you, and you must be literally Satan incarnate. Because how dare you be left-handed, Riaz, as I am right-handed, and I can't accept that. You know what I mean? And it literally gets that petty.
Now, except for if you grew up as a left-handed kid, when you walked into schools, classrooms, until age 12 or 13, you had to sit where the left-handed desks were.
Yes.
So even in your callous description of the differences between left-handed and right-handed people, you actually, if you were a left-handed kid, you would know that for years and years and years, when you walk into a classroom, you don't get to choose where you sit. You don't get to choose where you sit with your friends. You go wherever the left-handed desks are. I'm being facetious, but in a way, all those experiences need to be discussed.
Exactly.
In a way to say, like, this has shaped, your being white has shaped your life through thousands and thousands of days living life in your skin. Mine being brown has shaped my life. Those are all part of how we see the world.
Exactly.
And the problem is how we see the world is entirely skewed based on our life experiences.
And the people that we surround ourselves with, and the bubbles that we place around ourselves to kind of influence what we believe and how we think.
And unfortunately, we think our way is the right way.
Yes.
Every time, like
even when there is a problematic issue in those things.
Yeah, exactly. Like when it comes to guns, when you or somebody like myself who've literally lived out in the middle of the woods most of his entire life, you live by a gun. I mean, it's you have it for hunting. It's a necessity. But I know people who live in, say, New York City or in even the local cities around here, actual cities around here in North Carolina.
Raleigh.
Yeah, in Raleigh or even in Charlotte. And you get these people, what do you need a gun for? What do you know? It's the same thing as why do you need a car to drive around in New York City when you have public transportation and everything to do it for you?
And that's the thing is when you look at an election map, you tend to every election that I can remember think, and this is from my side, which is the liberal Democrats, see every place where there are ethnically, religiously, sexually diverse people living together in a major city goes liberal because they're open-minded.
Yep.
Every place that's rural are those people who don't ever meet people who are different, who are gun people. That was entirely, by the way, my perception of you before I got to know you. What was interesting, though, and Glenn and I had this conversation last week, was he said, I don't think all the left is afraid of guns. And I said, don't underestimate how afraid of guns we are.
Yeah.
Is like you said, and you grew up with guns in the woods, and we didn't.
Yep.
We didn't.
It's
on
not
every
part of your
level.
culture.
Whatever you feel about, I'm trying to think of something that makes you uncomfortable the second it's brought up.
Yeah.
It is that thing for us. And so it's not just ignorance. It's not just a lack of experience. It's a very different way of thinking.
Yep.
To me, I have 2 children. I don't have a gun in my home because if there's a problem, there's an alarm system, or I'll call the police, or, we're a gay couple, we're 2 men, we have better chances than a straight couple, I would think, on some level. Yeah. But we just don't have a gun because it's not something that we feel is vital to our protection.
Yeah.
In the same way, we have to understand that you guys, it is. For us, it is not. And so it's a big disconnect of translation, but we want the same goal, which is not for children to be shot.
Exactly.
Now, here's one of the things. So we've kind of been dancing around the topic here, but let's kind of set sort of standard about what we're talking about. So if we're talking about the Second Amendment, if you're going by our standard and what we believe in from how we think, the Second Amendment was put into place specifically to do one major thing: protect every person's right and ability from an overpowered, overbearing government.
I did not even know that until I met Glenn. What you just said is literally something I did not know. That for us, we so believe on some levels, and again, I do believe in my conversations, I'm finding that the world and my views are grayer than they used to be, that the government is a tool or can be a tool of good. Mm-hmm. And so the concept of needing protection from an overpowered government is a concept that in my 43 years had never occurred to me or never been told by anyone. And I spent several of my years in West Virginia as a child.
Oh, wow.
Never told me until Glenn Beck looked me in the eye and said, no, it's not just about our gun culture. It's about protecting from a government that gets too big.
Yeah.
And I was like, but we don't look at the government as an enemy. And so, again, because I speak French and you speak English, does that mean we should never speak and meet? No, we have two different languages, but we have to learn how to translate.
Right.
Never underestimate for us the Second Amendment assumptions that you guys have grown up with are things that have never really applied themselves to our lives because, again, the frequency of being around guns is not something that we needed to know about the Second Amendment. It wasn't the one that we thought about or cited the most.
Yep.
Right.
So you're right.
In essence, we think of you said that you think of the government or the people that you surrounded yourself with over the past over in your life. The thought process is government is a generally good thing.
Correct.
It's a tool to be used. Where we also believe that in most instances it can be used for good. We believe that the government is fire.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It warms you.
You can cook with it. You
It
can.
cooks your food for you.
It gives you light.
It
blah
gives
blah
you
blah.
light. It gives you wonderful things. But if you do not watch it, you do not pay attention to it, and you have no way of stopping it,
Your house burns down.
yeah, you don't have a house anymore. You don't have life anymore. Everything around you turns into flame.
Yeah.
That is a very good analogy that I'm going to use and credit you. But that's a very good way for us to think of it because we've never looked. And I mean, I'm also remember how many parts of people, groups I belong to. You got the whole Muslims that I will meet at mosque and chat with. I will, shooting for television, production shooting. I've been all over America. I've gone to small towns. I've been on tiny ranches. I literally did not have these conversations. So people I surround myself with, they never came into my path or we never discussed it. It's funny how. Actually, I remember the first time I was filming at Kickapoo Ranch in Junction City, Kansas, and we got into a van. And there were all these guns on the floor of the van. And I turned to my cameraman, and we both almost freaked out. Not that we thought we'd get shot or something. We were just never been around guns that casually.
That's a lot of guns.
That's a lot.
It was a lot of guns. And by the way, but to me, it was the first time in my life, it was at mid-30s, that I'd ever really been around a lot of guns. And that's mid-30s. So it's so not a part of our day-to-day. And even the perception of the government. We never really... And I think now seeing and understanding how the 8 years of Obama, there was this exponential growth of government and what it oversaw and how inefficiently it oversaw it, that made me really see, wait, maybe the fire has gotten too big. Maybe not everything needs this level of regulation, discussion, think tanks, public. Like I got it from that level. And your analogy is very useful for me to explain it to other people as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, like I said, that's what makes this, it's what makes this whole thing just so important, as a whole. And we have got to start reaching and start having those dialogues. Because, like I said, when I first and it wasn't even a gun issue for me. You want to laugh at me? When the moment I started to realize there was a literal difference, literal difference of perception in life was when I went to New York City 2 years ago, and I was having a discussion with somebody about. Actually, no, it wasn't even a discussion. We were trying to get from Times Square to Penn Station, and I will never forget it. We tried to get to the sub, and the subway we tried to get onto that had the power gone out in that section. So I had to carry my 4-year-old son or 3-year-old son at the time, big old boy, had to carry him on my shoulders.
He is a big old boy.
15 blocks down to the next thing. And in walking, it occurred to me that because I'm thought to myself, I was like, if I was back home, we just hop in a car and drive. We actually drove up there, and I thought there'd be parking decks and places we could put we were staying in Long Island, and I had to leave the car there, and we had to take the train because it's just, again, a different world. And then from that moment on, I started to realize that like you said, it's everybody grows up in a different type of a culture. Different things are the norm, and we just kind of accept and say that's just how it is until we meet somebody that's different. And we're not even trying to be open-minded about it. Or worse, you see something like to bring it back to guns, you have everybody on the outside going, "Oh, these guns are horrible and they're shooting people." Like I mentioned earlier, I guess there was a robbery in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And
that was a home robbery.
Yeah, it was a home robbery, and at least one of the guys, the robbers had gotten shot and killed, and the weapon they happened to use was an AR-15. Well, the grandfather of one of the victims, the robbers, yes, was sitting here saying that because it was an AR-15, the guy had an unfair advantage.
The kid.
The kid.
The 15-year-old kid who was at home protecting his
Yeah.
house.
He had an unfair advantage against the older, like late teenager, early 20s guy that broke in. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we're allowing the media to spin this stuff in such a way and keep us in a divide. And all I know, and this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to reach out and talk with you and get and hopefully we do more of this stuff down the road, is because we've got to start figuring ways of again, going back to it, reaching across that aisle. We've got to start having conversations, because if I don't start understanding who you are and meet you and see your world, and you don't start to see mine, we're not going to be able to sit down and have a conversation about how to stop school shootings.
I mean, today, someone on my public Facebook, where I have these conversations and post the spirit of these kinds of conversations, said to me that however many million people voted for Trump are a cancer in America, and do I personally just want to be popular enough to turn my back on what's happening in this country? Right. And I get one or two personal attacks a day. And I keep saying to them, technically, I'm on your side. How do you treat people who are not on your side if this is how you treat people who are on your side?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And I want to say to them, like, but each of those people has a life and a value and a family that's just as important as yours. And
exactly.
The problem is, there's a few problems. One is that 24-hour news outlets have to program like they're competing with The Voice, and they're competing with Scandal, and they're competing with real entertainment. And so how do they make news entertaining enough to watch? And the other unfortunate effect is that a lot of this came to light because the president, the candidate, was vocally one of the most uninhibited people ever. And the one thing, and again, it's different. Words are so much more important to us because they've been thrown at us more. I would say more liberal minority friends of mine would know what it's like to be called a horrible, hateful, slur word. Not that my Caucasian friends can't understand that, but again, if your life is the product of thousands of days living in your skin, of those thousands of days in my skin, it's happened a lot.
Yep.
It's happened a lot that words have the power to diminish me, not just, and this is one thing that I've tried to convey to my friends on the right, is that the experiences that we've had, whether it's transgender, gay, whatever it is, all the things that you're so tired of being trotted around to you, which I agree, it gets annoying when the Hollywood media just says, okay, trans is the new issue, so everything is trans.
Yeah. Right.
And then you find producers trying to pitch trans shows, and it becomes a whole thing. To me, it's how do I express to you that the way I see the world, like guns are important to you, not to me, but in your blood, in your culture, in your days, in your life, in your childhood, it's occurred a lot, so it's important to you. That is valid. For me, words, labels that have been used to literally limit me, not just hurtful words, but to say, keep him out of the meeting, keep him out of the room. Don't let it's happened throughout my life. Don't let the grandkids. I remember grandparents not wanting me to play with their grandkids because it was a Jewish school and I was a Muslim, and they preferred that I didn't come over. Or one of my best friends didn't like me because I was gay. Or a line after 9/11 that I was standing in line at St. Vincent's to donate blood. The line turned on me the morning of September 12th and asked me to leave because they should kill me or my family.
Wow.
Those are things that have happened to me so many times. I mean, asked to leave cabs, by Pakistani drivers after 9/11. They're like, we just don't want any trouble. Those experiences also shape the way I do. And so in the same way that we're going to have to meet you halfway, you're going to have to walk halfway.
Exactly.
You guys are going to have to come to the 50-yard line.
Yep.
And I'll say, 10 years ago, I would say my honest feeling was I felt so judged by conservatives and the right for my life, my lifestyle, who I was. I feel that sense of judgment has now shifted to the left.
Yeah.
I feel like, do you feel that as well? I feel like but I feel like the right used to be the moral compass for me of like, you can't do this, we don't support this, we don't support this, we don't, gay marriage, all these things. And now it feels like the left has taken that entirely of moral superiority.
I agree. I think what's happened is, and you're right, what the right used to be, because of the whole, Bible and guns and everything else, is what would happen is we were that moral, compass, as you said, but then as it went on, the left has taken it, and they've gone so far that now the right's going, hey, whoa, now you're
marching on our territory.
Well, not just marching on our territory, but now you're taking it to a level that it's just it's insane. It's like you were mentioning before, now we have to have, trans is the new thing. So now every show has to have a trans guy in it, or has to, and they're forcing this stuff. And
how do you know it's a guy?
Or pardon me, it could be a girl. Who knows? for me to judge. But the point goes is they're forcing it and to a level, and that's where it becomes the issue.
Yep.
You know, if it happened naturally, and this is for everyone on every experience at every level, if it happens naturally, yeah, people are kind of like, oh, change, but people adapt to it. They roll into it.
And so the rate of change becomes the issue, because I'd say to you, when I would say Obama did not come into office and change my life as a gay man in any meaningful way. He didn't do it in his first term. He was too political for that. Yeah. I would say Will and Grace and Queer Eye for the Straight Guy did more to impact my life in terms of making people who weren't sure or uncomfortable with homosexuality realize its familiarity. Yeah. So there is a role of media. It's one of the reasons I got in my car and drove to LA for career and entertainment, is because I was watching a movie about this gay love story in Edwardian England when I was a kid, literally thinking, how do I kill myself because who I am is so hideous and so horrible? And then I saw this movie and I was like, oh, maybe a love story that's gay can be as beautiful as any love story. And it never occurred to me. So media has a powerful influence. And I feel like part of the judginess I used to feel from the right 10 years ago, I feel media went in and said, stop being afraid of the gays and all. Yep. The problem is we've applied this to everything with you people. Yep. And it's now like you have to be spoon-fed, but because of the rate of information bombarding us, it feels like you're being, what is it where they put a funnel and pour beer down your throat?
It's that old Looney Tunes commercial with the dog and the funnel in his mouth and just shove food down his face. Riaz, we would actually love to continue the conversation with you if you'd like to hold with the break for us. If not, we have to hit this break. It's we're getting past our time here.
I am standing by.
Okay,
that'll work.
Thank you so much. We will be right back. You are listening to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism on the Lanterns Radio Network.
We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. And welcome back, folks. You're listening to Defenders of American Exceptionalism on the Lanterns Radio Network. We are joined by Riaz Patel, good friend of ours. Thank you for hanging out with us, man. We really appreciate it. This is a blast, dude.
We went from struggling to get you on to good friend in about 20 minutes. That's good. That's a record. That is a record.
I do. I mean, because I really do see things from the perspective I try to of people I engage with. I really do, because I think the problem with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all of it, and it's a reality, it's not going to go away, is that we have taken our actual lives and transformed them into some digital facsimile who looks like us and feels like us, but only looks good and only stands in really nice places. And that has become us. And so we're engaging people with this front, politically, morally, without actually even talking.
Yep,
it's very much like the picture that we pulled off of Facebook of you that we have set up in your.
Oh gosh, what does it look like?
It's the black and white with the plaid.
Oh yeah.
It's a good picture. Don't worry, we looked out for you. Don't worry.
But there's definitely lighting involved in that. Like I think if you walked around and took photos of me, I don't think my skin would look so even. It's not quite so even. But it's funny though, because it allows us to think we have friends we don't. It allows us to think we're having conversations. We're not. We're posting sequentially.
Yep.
It allows us to think that we're engaging and know people, and yet we feel so disconnected. And so I think what you're doing, what we're doing now, is saying in this digital era, which only is, this intense in the past few years that coincided with this election, how will we relate to each other, knowing that we could be fully digital? How will we relate to each other's humanity in the world where we don't live, in a non-digital world that we live in?
Yeah.
And my bigger fear is that communities are drifting apart, that we don't live near each other. That when I had to find Trump voters, I had to literally go and find them. That if we start congregating and only seeing and not making the special exceptions where you see that cousin at Thanksgiving or you go to that Super Bowl party and you're not afraid to discuss differences, that may be the only opportunities we have in the future to really meet people who are different, because as our work gets more honed and our lives get more honed and our schedules get busier, how on earth am I going to come across a Trump voter if I don't go out and seek one?
Yeah.
Speaking of Trump voters, all right. So we have one of the stories that if you couldn't hold with us, we were going to go over and talk about was Trump and the wall and the border. Apparently now Trump is actually sending out the National Guard. To go down to the border and take care of those things. I don't. Have you heard about this? What is the spin that you've caught? What's your take on this whole situation?
I mean, I believe that immigration, speaking as an immigrant, is incredibly important to America. I have not engaged with a lot of people from the right who have said we oppose immigrants. I really haven't, and I imagine those are the horrible people.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Exactly.
I've been technically the right my whole life, and I've never known that to be an issue at all.
Right.
Agreed. But I think the problem is, again, in the first election where media could be covered everywhere, every moment, you had the most vocal president candidate ever. And I believe to a degree, and I talked to most Trump voters, and this is sort of just looking back in hindsight, at the point where there was a debate, I don't think very few of the people that I know said he's my guy from the first debate. That I believe it was sort of this narrowing process, but the constant coverage, just constant coverage, and filling 24 hours with, on our side, the absurdity of who he was in this campaign legitimized him in a way that he became a real candidate. Similarly, the only way that we can get, it's funny, I don't find that when I talk to people about guns or immigration and I say, let's discuss with your neighbors and all, I find them almost resistant to do that, wanting instead to take back the House, take back the White House. And I'm like, how does that solve the problem we're having right now? Like, look at your watch right now. And so I think, to me, in the border is trying to come through on some of the things he promised. I think what we've seen is the absurdity of Washington in general and the inability to get anything done.
Yes.
I feel a lack of compromise on either side to say we have vital interests, we'd like to work together. If anything, his presidency has shown is the complete deadlock in Washington. And so I honestly, like sending the National Guard, I don't know how that really blips on the radar, because it doesn't really adjust the major problem. It doesn't really change the legislation in any meaningful way. And so we're stuck in this limbo where we think our president is sending National Guard troops to shoot at Mexicans, which, I'm
sure that's how it's being, drawn up.
And how we see it, just so you know, how it kind of gets played out over here is that's actually within his purview of the office. He has the ability to do what he's doing, to do one specific thing, which is secure the border, because part of his purview as the executive is to control all international everything. That's his point. That's his point of interest, is international. So, whereas most domestic policies can be thought of and legislated and everything in our legislative bodies, things that are international, things that deal with immigration and illegal immigration, which is what we're really concerned about. We're never concerned about actual immigrants. I believe you've had multiple conversations with Doc Thompson. I believe we'd be very similar to him in this aspect, where give us 1 million more, give us 2 million more. Make it legal. Because those ones that are coming in legally actually want to be here, and they want to be citizens. They want to do good.
We can go down the list.
See, I don't know if I hear you on it's within his power domain to do it. I understand. His protecting the border, I think, is fine as well.
Right.
I guess to me, it's the equating that illegal immigrants are not here to do good. I guess in the same way that our spin vilifies Trump, I want to make sure that the spin on that side isn't. I mean, there is like.
Don't get me wrong. Personally, and I think Dylan as well, we really don't like Trump that much.
No,
the quote I hear the most is, "We're tired of defending him."
I am so tired of.
I never liked it. I never liked him to begin with. He wasn't
the first when he was. Yeah, he was never your guy. And
I never voted for him. I didn't vote for him.
The president who wasn't their guy.
Exactly. We didn't even vote for him. That was the thing, and it was to that point. And I am tired of on. Because again, you're gonna go. We keep going back to it. We're so stuck in this tribalistic view of things that because you mentioned earlier how people are let's instead of fixing the problem, we need to take the House, we need to take the Senate, we need to take the White House. My realization in all this between when Obama briefly had when it was the left had the House, the Senate, and the White House, and then turn around and now the right has it, and neither one of them are getting anything done that they say to their base that they're trying to do.
Yes.
Just screams to me that this whole entire thing is just a giant joke, and we're all being played for suckers. When you turn around and add on the 24-hour news cycle, then they turn around and just feed things, and everybody else just kind of sits back and goes, oh, well, we're just going to sit back and let these guys chew on themselves, and then we turn one person against another, and before you know it, here we are.
I think I got an email from some Democrat fundraising committee that said, we have an unbelievably high level of interaction and engagement. I think it said something like $18 and something cents per voter. And I thought, $18 per voter, what could we do with that money? And what we're going to do is media buys for 2 years to get someone elected who can't do anything when they get there anyway.
Exactly.
And so what I'm finding is the commonality that I'm hoping brings us together.
Yes.
Is looking at Washington and saying, you have to agree it's kind of absurd. You have to agree it's kind of absurd. And so when I talk to my liberal friends, I'd say, look, I think we're all realizing that what works in California does not necessarily work in Maine, which means the conservatives, when they're saying local government, may have a point, guys.
Yeah.
And that's something that they're opening up to, that I'm like, a lot of the things we don't like is because our guy didn't win. But sometimes our guy will not win. And when he doesn't win, if there's so much executive order that's amassed, a la Obama, we won't like it. So maybe the amount should be lessened. And so I'm trying to turn the rage at Donald Trump on the left into really examining the government. And for me, the one thing I want us all to get angry and hateful about is campaign fundraising.
Oh, yeah. Why would... Okay.
It's just, it is the root of all evil, because the angrier you are, the more you'll give, the more money I make, the more I can spend on media buys, the more money this machine makes, the more it just...
It's an endless circle.
It's absurd.
An endless circle. The bad part is we're going to have to end it on this very frustrating note.
We are.
I want to point this out. Before the two-party system, everybody that was voted into office from the local government first, and then voted up as they did well to serve the populace.
Yep.
Amen.
And that's how it should go back to again. Yeah. Riaz, real fast, how do people find you on social media?
So the Facebook is where I'm posting the most of these conversations. So it's Riaz Patel.producer is the Facebook page, and at Riaz Patel is the Twitter handle. Instagram, it's sort of a joke, right? I don't even know what to do. What in my life is photographable, so I won't even bother.
We don't either. Don't feel bad.
I mean, at some point, I'm like, what am I doing? But I don't understand.
Social medias.
Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Well, we really appreciate you on. We will definitely have you back on again, because we already sucked up like 2 segments, and I could go on for another hour or 2 hours. Riaz,
we will do this again, and I promise to make it much easier to schedule. This I promise. It's been a few months of travel constantly, but I love it too, so I'm in.
Awesome, guys. We will see y'all next on Saturday, 9 p.m. Don't go anywhere. Bye.